You know that rush of dopamine you get when you first make a sale on eBay? It's addictive, isn't it? Every time I'd make a sale, I would instantly want the next one. And over the last 5 years, that addiction has led me to sell over 14,000 items on eBay. But if I think back to when I first started selling, it was always a real grind to get that next sale. I really wish I'd done things smarter, sooner to help speed up the process. So to help you with your eBay journey and make it 10 times easier, here's 25 brutal truths that I wish I knew before I started selling on eBay. Lesson number 1, do you remember the first time you learnt to ride a bike? You had the training wheels on, you were feeling pretty nervous, but eventually you would become the BMX bandit riding all around the neighbourhood. That's no different to starting an eBay business. You're going to not really know what's going on to begin with, and that's completely okay. There's going to be a lot of lessons that you learn along the way, but for lesson number 1, you just simply need to make a start, because after that, you'll figure it out as you go. Lesson number 2, I've got a scenario for you guys. Both of these products are guaranteed to sell on eBay. This Funko Pop is worth $12 and this Animal Crossing video game is worth $50. Which product would you like to try and sell on eBay? Hopefully you're all saying Animal Crossing. Reason why is because it has a higher average sale price at $50. If you're not worried about the fact that an item is going to potentially go on to sell or not, you're always going to choose the item that is worth more money. Based on this principle, I've adopted a new rule for myself over the last couple of years called the $20 rule. I basically won't buy an item if it doesn't sell on eBay for at least $20 or more. After fees, postage and cost of goods, you're really not making too much profit on an item that's selling for less than $20. So why are we wasting time at listing up these items? Yet all too often I see in my mentoring sessions, people are listing up $10, $15, $18, $19 items, and I know that their profit at the end of the day won't be significant for the amount of work that they have to put in to try and get the item to go on to sell. So for lesson number 2, stick to the $20 rule and only source items worth over $20. Lesson number 3, this is your eBay listings. Now, when I go ahead and pour water in, you're going to see some sales start to come out. But what often happens is we start to list, and we overflow our bucket of listings. That is what we don't want to do. What we want to do is we want to keep a nice consistent stream of sales compared to our active listings. By going out and sourcing and buying as much as possible all the time, we often overflow our situation and we cause headaches for ourselves. So to control this flow, and for lesson number 3, I've created the 48-hour rule. Basically, if I go out and source any amount of product, if I can't list it, or at least draft list it within a 48-hour window of purchasing, I give myself a sourcing ban. I allow my active listings to generate further sales for myself, improve my cash flow position, and then I use that money to go back out and reinvest into more inventory. All too often I see people just continually sourcing and they never give themselves the sourcing ban, and we see massive death piles that cause profitability to be at an all-time low because we just continue to sink money into product. So for lesson number 3, adopt the 48-hour rule and give yourself a sourcing ban every once in a while. Lesson number 4, this is a rule that I've adopted for myself when it comes to sourcing inventory to sell on eBay and eventually make myself a decent amount of profit. I always struggled in the early stages to know how much should I actually be spending, or how much can I actually spend up to still be profitable when it goes on to sell. So I gave myself the rule of the 3x rule. If I was to buy an item, I would go on to see on eBay if it was selling for 3 times the amount that I was purchasing it for. So an example of that would be a $20 product. I'd be jumping onto eBay and I would be seeing if it sells for at least $60 or more. Now, with this very general guiding principle, it's going to be different in every situation, but it generally means you're going to double your money. So if you're spending 20 to sell for 60, you're generally going to make about $20 in profit by recouping $40 of that back after fees and postage costs. Obviously the postage costs are going to be a bit of a determinant around whether or not you will be able to double your money, but generally speaking, the 3x rule is a safe bet for sellers that are just starting out and they're unsure about what to look for. Always try and 3x your investment and you'll end up doubling your money. Lesson number 5, there's a hidden metric that eBay provides eBay sellers with that we all typically ignore, and this is sell-through rate. Sell-through rate is basically checking to see how many listings are active versus how many listings have sold. Now, how do you know what a good sell-through rate is? Well, I like to work off a 50% metric. So if there's 10 listed items, if there's 5 sold items that compare, well, that's 50%, and in my eyes, that's deeming to be a fairly decent sell-through rate. Now, I've made an ebook that you guys can go and get. It's a very simple access down in the description box below, and it kind of breaks down the whole sell-through rate process when you're out and about sourcing items, how to check for sell-through rate, and then what is deemed to be a good sell-through rate. So go and grab that if you're unsure, but sell-through rate is really the secret to eBay, and you've got to be checking it. Lesson number 6. Now, I am running a 12-week challenge. We call it the eBay Launch Lab, and what I see very, very commonly with these guys that are participating and starting their eBay business for the very first time is that they are pricing themselves out of the competition. So they're pricing themselves up way too high for their level of experience on eBay. They're shooting for the stars and they're really costing themselves at the end of the day. So we've built into that program for those guys that are just starting out to just price their items up in the bottom 25% of sold comps that they're seeing. So if there's a range of price points between say $50 and $100, I'm telling them that $65 odd is around about the sweet spot. It doesn't need to be exactly 25%, but if you're playing within that ballpark of the bottom quarter of previously sold listings, you're going to have a far better way of selling items at a faster rate and get yourself up and running. Once you're a little bit more experienced, you can price yourself up slightly higher in the metrics, but it's a massive one that I see. It's a huge issue, and I was doing this when I first started, and I'm seeing it in beginner sellers today. So for lesson number 6, bottom 25%, you'll go a long way to making more sales. Lesson number 7. 2 years ago, I had a store size of 2,800 items, and I really didn't have any strategy when it came to my listings. I was just listing up 10, 15, 20 odd items per day, and I really didn't care what the metrics of that particular listing was. I just thought that the more that I put in, the better chance I had of generating sales. And that was really quickly put to rest when I realized that if I was actually to go ahead and adopt my $20 rule that we've already spoken about, my store reduced very quickly down to about 1,600 items. And then soon after that, I've had it now below 1,000 active listings. And what I've realized is that eBay actually doesn't care how many active listings you have. They care about how much money your store size is worth, because eBay is a business themselves and they're going to be making 15% off every single item that we sell. So whether we sell one item for $100 or 10 items for $10, eBay's still going to make $15 off us at the end of the day. So by reducing my store size from 2,800 items down to less than 1,000 items today, I'm actually still exactly the same position on profitability because I'm listing out far better quality product at a higher average sale price, and I'm generating more profit per individual sale. So this has helped my efficiency somewhat because I'm not actually having to list up as many items to get the same return. So for this lesson, I really want you guys to be making sure that you're focusing on that. It's not so much about the quantity per day, it's more about the dollar value that you choose to adopt as your listing strategy per day. So whether that's 100, 200, 300, I was doing $500 a day, and I was finding that that was comparative to maybe listing 10 to 15 items a day. So that's a bit of a guide there, but focus on just dollar value and you'll go a long way to being more efficient. Lesson number 8, a very common question that I'll always get asked, especially by beginners, is should they be focusing on the international postage rate on international orders when they're doing their comp checks? You'll often see there's italic writing and it says maybe $60 odd for a product sale plus $45 worth of postage. Well, you can go ahead and ignore that for this lesson. Basically, what you want to be doing with international sales comps is just taking the product price only, and the postage costs can kind of be ignored. Doing that, you're going to get a much better accurate depiction of what your item is valued at, and when you choose to list it for that price, you'll generally get a quicker sale than trying to add on that heavy postage cost, which is always inaccurate. Lesson number 9. Did you know that in your eBay Seller Hub, you can actually search in listings active via the most watched items on your listings? Now, if you've got any listings there that have got maybe 5, 6, 7, even 10 plus watches on your item, for this lesson, I really think you guys should be regularly dropping the price on those listings. They've obviously had a lot of interest gained on them. They've found a lot of views and a lot of watches, but for some reason, the item hasn't actually gone on to sell. So a really quick way to get it to sell is by just dropping the price point ever so slightly. eBay will then send out notifications to all of those watches, and chances are one of those watches will pick up your item based on the fact that you've made a pricing change. So for this lesson, it's a really crucial one to do maybe once a week to try and get those items that have been there for a little while out the door. Lesson number 10. If I asked you if your eBay business was profitable, would you be able to say yes or no? Because a lot of the time when I ask this question to people in my mentoring groups, they'll often say that they don't really have any idea. They think they're doing all right, but they're often quite disappointed when they look at the overall metrics of their eBay business using software like Flippedit. We've had Flippedit in operation now for about 6 to 9 months, and it's been doing really well in educating sellers on how their eBay business is going on a profitability sense. Now, eBay does provide you with revenue, but they don't provide you with profit, and that's exactly what Flippedit provides. You can actually sync your eBay business up to Flippedit at a click of a button, and we do have a 7-day free trial if you guys are interested in using it. But this is a really important metric, guys. Profit is the only thing that determines whether or not your eBay business is doing well, and you need to have sight on that. And if you're unfamiliar with spreadsheets and the way to go about that whole side of things, well, Flippedit is kind of the set and forget option for you. So like I said, link in the description to give that one a go. Lesson number 11. Did you know that eBay will ghost delete multiple listings in your eBay store? This is a very common trap that a lot of eBay sellers will get into because they just focus on the next purchase and the next listing, and they pay completely less attention to their actual store maintenance. So a really, really important step here is to make sure that you're always manipulating the listings within your store, because eBay will audit and reduce any of the listings that have had no attention over the last couple of months. It's quite confronting when you first learn about this, because when I did years ago, I found that I had hundreds of listings vanished from my eBay business, and we had to go and backtrack to get them back up and listed. So for this step, 30 to 60 days is probably the window to try and make some form of manipulation to your eBay listing. Often the case is the end and relist strategy is the best one to adopt. So for this process, it's literally just reducing the price, going into your listings active, ending the listing, and then relisting the listing so it's got a new item number. That new item number in the eyes of eBay deems it to be a brand new listing from day one, and it gives it another cycle of opportunity to have it go on to sell. So make sure you're doing that. It's a crucial one. So frustrating when you don't see those listings live. Lesson number 12. You know how I said we have the $20 rule? Well, I've also adopted another one called the $50 ASP rule. Now, the $50 rule basically refers to having a $50 average listed price, but also a $50 average sale price. Now, I don't mean $50 plus, I mean average. So you can have those bread and butter items, $20, $30 products in there, but you'd like to compensate that with $80, $90, $100 plus products to try and average out at around that $50. Statistics do show that those that have a higher average sale price and an average listed price generally end up selling their items faster and for more profit, obviously being a larger average sale price. So this is a statistic that Flippedit also provides on the homepage dashboard. You can clearly see at a click of a button what your profitability will look like based on your average listed price and average sale price. So keep it above 50 and you'll be fine. Lesson number 13. 3 months ago, I had a stroke. Don't worry, I'm doing completely fine. But it's a really important point to talk about, because by having that stroke, it meant that I was out of action for a couple of weeks. And by the time I got back into my eBay business, I realized things hadn't suffered too terribly because we had a draft bank in place. I had Kate obviously assisting me as well to make sure that the postage orders always got out the door. But when that time came and life did change for me, because I had a draft bank in place, I was able to kind of keep things even keel throughout the process of coming back into the garage and continuing working on. So whether this is a holiday or whether this is the fact that you're simply unable to do anything relating to your eBay business for that particular day, having a draft bank built out of up to 2 weeks is always going to be a lifesaver when life just gets in the way. So make sure you're building out your draft bank and having at least 14 days worth of a draft bank, and you'll have a lot less stress about your eBay journey. Lesson number 14. I was at the flea market a couple of weeks ago and I was speaking to a vendor that said he had a product that was selling for $100 on eBay. I said to him, can you show me that? And he did. And then I quickly realized he didn't have his customizable filters locked out. So for that reason, he didn't have any of his products really clearly on display from a sold pricing sense. So I went ahead and I showed him the process of how to do that. A very simple step in the filters on the eBay app to go down to customize filters, turn that on, and then turn features like highest price first. You want to be turning on your condition type of used condition if that's what you've got. You also want to be turning it on to Australia only, or at least the country that you're in only, to get a look at domestic rates. And then obviously the really important one, the sold filter, and then you can lock those out to only ever see those results in that order. Now, once I'd shown that flea market vendor all of those steps that I've just told you about there, we could clearly see that that $100 product that was maybe listed up once on eBay hadn't actually got on to sell. So I said to him, look, this item has not gone on to sell for $100 on eBay, therefore I don't think it's quite worth what you're saying it is. So really important step, guys, not even from a sourcing sense, but even just being aware that other people out there might not be truly looking at the filters in the correct way. So not only do you need to be doing it as a seller, you've also got to be aware that other sellers that you're trying to buy off might potentially not be educated like they need to be. So customize your filters, get things set up correctly to get a true look at what these items are actually worth. Lesson number 15. how do you know if you're actually efficiently selling well on eBay? Like, what's the guiding principle? What do you need to know that you're going out in the right direction? Well, I've adopted a rule that I think is pretty accurate. I've called this one the 1 to 100 ratio. Now, what that refers to is basically one sale every single day for every 100 active listings that you have in your store. So if we have a 200 item store, I would anticipate that you should be selling at 2 sales every single day if you were doing things efficiently. So that over a 90-day period that we look at on our mobile app version, I would expect to say 200 active listings, 180 sold orders. Now, if you don't have 180 sold orders, it's generally because you're not adopting all of the other principles that we've spoken about in this video to maintain a really efficiently run eBay store. So there are some things that you can change just simply with the products that you have to get that ratio looking better. So one sale for every 100 active listings. Let me know what your ratio is in the comments below. Lesson number 16. This is a big one, guys. I went away on a holiday about a year and a half ago and I was drafting up all of my listings in the lead up, thinking that I was really getting on top of things and I would see no depreciation in sales over the journey while I was away. Now, what I was doing to get that set up is I was scheduling a certain day and a certain time ahead of schedule for the days that I was going to be away on holiday. Unfortunately, when I was away, all of the sales plummeted. I actually tanked in sales and I was completely clueless as to why, because I had worked in overdrive to get those listings up and running. But what I realized was that you need to be clicking the Save for Later button, not the scheduling date and time. If you click Save for Later, basically eBay's algorithm sees that listing go live on that particular day. So there's an extra couple of seconds worth of work that you're going to have to do while you're away on holiday or wherever you may be. But algorithmically, eBay sees that listing go live on that day and they reward you with sales on that day for the fact that those listings have gone live. So don't schedule, make sure you're clicking Save for Later, putting the listings up. It's much better for the algorithm. Lesson number 17. I actually get a little bit frustrated with this one and I'm really wanting to put it into the video just to really drive it home that free postage does not mean free postage. It is probably the number one question that I get, considering that I am a free postage seller on eBay. People think that I'm just foregoing the cost of postage and I'm wearing that cost, and I'm absolutely not. The buyer is always paying for the cost of postage. I'm just choosing to market it in a way that looks appealing to the buyer. If you think about this as an example, we've got a $50 product. I'm going to go ahead and list it up for $49.95 versus somebody else listing the same product for $39.95 plus $10 in postage. The revenue is still exactly the same. Nobody is losing out on postage here, but in the eyes of eBay, 70% of sales have come from a free postage model of price point. So the $49.95 is beating the $39.95 plus 10 every single time, or at least 7 out of 10 times. So that's strong enough for me to adopt the free postage model. But for this lesson, guys, free postage does not mean free postage. Lesson number 18. This is a really big one that I ran into the trap of in the very early stages, and it just compounded and got worse and worse and worse as life went on. Look, I didn't adopt a SKU system on day one. I just simply thought that at the time, the number of products that I had didn't warrant a SKU system. But then obviously over time, things grew and I came more tubs. And as you can see behind me, we've got a lot of tubs in the shelves behind me. And for about 3 years out of my 5-year journey on eBay, I never had a SKU system. And that is a huge lesson that I want to pass on to you guys. If you're in your early stages, make sure that you just label a tub. You can see the tubs behind me have got these little labels on it. That's all you need to be doing. And then you put it into eBay's SKU system to link it up and let you know where they are. And you're going to have no problems moving forward. I wasted hours trying to find product without a SKU system because we had, as you know, 2,800 items that didn't have a SKU system. It was an incredibly silly step, probably the biggest blunder from a time management perspective that I've done over the last 5 years. Lesson number 19. I really think those that are successful are the ones that are consistent over time. If you look at Kobe Bryant, the greatest basketball player in the world, he was always one that was just pedantic about getting better every single day and it being an everyday thing. He never had days off. He was always pursuing excellence on every single day. And I think if you can adopt that mindset to anything you do in life, over time, consistency and time equation is going to allow you to be successful. Now, I knew nothing when I very first started selling on eBay. I knew nothing about YouTube videos as well, but over time, I've just slowly, incrementally got better and better. And the fact that you're still here watching this YouTube video right now has told me that I'm doing something about the learning process over the last 5 years. So really adopt that mindset of just saying to yourself, I'm just going to consistently learn and get better each day. And before you know it, you're going to look back and things are going to have really developed into something special. Lesson number 20. All too often, I will see eBay sellers that have a social media presence, like myself, floating really, really high revenue totals on their YouTube channels, their Instagram pages. And look, I'm guilty of it. I do it all the time as well. But this really is not a true reflection about how successful an eBay business is. If you've got a $100 sale price, if you're buying that product for $90, your chances are losing money on your eBay business. So we really have no understanding of how well an eBay business is going, even if the revenue figures are super high. So for this lesson, I really want you guys to focus on the metric that is the most important thing to focus on, and that is profit. Again, it's the reason why we've created Flippedit, so you guys can see what your true profit is and get a true awareness as to how successful your eBay business is really going. So for this lesson, try and avoid looking into metrics like growing your revenue. Obviously, revenue growth is a fantastic thing, but you really want to be countering that to your overall profits and making sure your profit margins are nice and large. Lesson number 21. Selling on eBay has a completely different strategy if you have less than 100 sales next to your account. Now, we are running that eBay Launch Lab 12-week challenge, and you guys can enter that. Link in the description below if you wanted to join the waitlist. We're going to have a new cohort coming up early next year. The process of this, though, for me, with the strategy that I'm trying to deploy on these guys, is to focus more about trying to get your 100 sales ticked off. As a top-rated eBay seller, you need to have 100 sales and you need to have $3,000 in revenue within a 12-month window. Now, I believe with our 12-week challenge that you can do it within 12 weeks if you adopt the correct processes that we've been talking a bit about in this video. So you really want to kind of forego the thought about revenue and profit, because that will come eventually. You really want to be saying to yourself, am I able to get a sale? Can I get somebody to come through my store, click on my listing, want to buy the item, and then transact on the item, and then build up your way to 100 sales. Now, you obviously don't want to be losing money on every single sale that you get, but if you compare it with things like the eProfit calculator and the Flippedit, obviously, software as well, you'll see that, yeah, it's profitable. It might not be a lot of profit, but my number one priority here is to get to 100 sales. The $3,000 in revenue, that's actually quite easy to do. It's the 100 total transactions within a 12 to 12 month window that is the difficult thing to focus on. So priority and strategy in those early days, get to 100 sales as quick as you can. Lesson number 22. The winner of our 12-week challenge last cohort was Renee. Now, Renee did $33,000 and over 600 sales within a 12-week window. It still blows my mind today. But if we ask Renee in a video that we've had on this channel a couple of months ago, Renee said that product was the number one thing that allowed her to get to the results that she got to. You can have all of the fancy tricks that eBay provides you with to try and improve the algorithm in some way. But if you're not selling a product that is in high demand for the people out there that are looking to buy, you're going to have a really hard time growing an eBay business. So focusing on things like sell-through rate, high average sale price, consistency over time, all these things that we've spoken about, buying the right product only and saying no to anything that isn't the right product is going to allow you to be efficient, but also generate really fast sales and potentially get numbers like Renee. Lesson number 23. I don't know why, but when I first started selling on eBay, I grabbed a whiteboard, I wrote down what I wanted to achieve, and then I broke it down to a daily basis. And I've still got a whiteboard here in this garage today that we use on a daily basis. This has been incredibly motivating for me to know exactly where I'm trying to get to and also how I'm trying to get there. I've been in sales my entire life, so maybe there was that concept of doing sales over the last 10 to 15 years that has allowed me to adopt it into my eBay business right from the get-go. But it's such a powerful thing to see it written down in front of you and to know exactly where you're going. The thing that I love about sales is that numbers don't lie. You know exactly where you're at and how well you're performing based on the goals that you've got for yourself. But if you're at a place right now where you're starting eBay and you have no idea what your goals are, start to work it out and write it down on paper and then work towards it. It'll keep you in the game for longer because you'll be motivated by your performance. Lesson number 24. Now, when you're first starting out selling on eBay, you're going to find it really hard to maintain and gain traffic for your eBay listings. People have got to see it, they've got to click on it, and then they've got to want to buy it. And when you don't have a lot of items in your store, that's a really hard process to try and tick off. So the way that we really fast track that and accelerate it is by using promoted listings. Now, if you don't have promoted listings on your eBay store, you must do it straight away. I've been on eBay for 5 years. I've got a really nice supply of 600-700 items in my store. I'm still promoting at 3% and I'm generating over 50% of my sales with simply just that metric. So you need to be using the promoted listings, but even more so when you're very first starting out. Like I said, you don't have those impressions, page views, and sales. So I'd be recommending an 8% promoted listing, especially if you haven't had your first 100 sales on eBay just yet. Once you do tick over that 100 sales, you can bring your percentage all the way back down to 3%. 2% is the bare minimum if you just want to go down that path. But such a large percentage of sales come from giving that extra percent. It works out in the long run because the revenue that's generated for that small additional cost is totally worth it. Lesson number 25. Now, earlier we spoke about consistency over time. Well, lesson number 25 is to just simply never quit. If I quit at any point along this journey of learning, then I wouldn't have been able to get to the position that I'm in today. You just mustn't ever have anything more than a relentless pursuit towards what you're doing, and understand that there are going to be a lot of learnings along the way, and that is completely okay. The way I look at it, failure is only if you quit. And if you don't quit, you've never failed. So just keep persistently pursuing what you're trying to get to, and just be conscious of trying to learn as much as you can, because simply here watching this video right now has hopefully put a lot of new information that you can now put into practice to get to the goals that you're trying to get to just a little bit quicker. So never quit. You've totally got this, and I look forward to seeing your success in the months and years to come. So there you go, guys. They are 25 lessons that I think are super important for you guys to be learning. I'm going to leave you with this video right here. It's actually a pretty big one, bunch more learnings for you, so go and check that one out. We'll see you over there for that one.